So, in little over, or shall we say at this point, in little under 13 hours' time, the first lot of Brexit checks of goods coming into the UK from Europe will finally take effect. And this, ladies and gentlemen, if you've been following any of the Brexit nonsense since 2016, you will know probably at least since the triggering of Article 50, has been a constant worry for many businesses here in the UK. Because not only have they had to spend 2021 dealing with the coronavirus pandemic and the problems that has put on the logistical supply side, but they've also now had to deal with the fact that many of their goods and businesses and services are now even more expensive, or they're having to put up the price to try and compensate for them now having the barriers to trade that are now in place because of the Brexit agreement that Boris Johnson signed. So much for there being no barriers at all to trade. But it gets even worse because that's going to Europe. Now we've got them goods coming in, which previously have all just been waved through as if nothing has changed. The big problem is, of course, and this is, as we've said before, going to be a smuggler's paradise. Because if you are carrying goods, you come off the boat, you'll be flagged, told to go to a customs checkpoint, which could be quite a distance away from your initial port drive. So if you're carrying illegal goods, you could come off the boat, drop off your illegal goods somewhere else, drive to the customs station, declare all your legal goods, and then carry on your way. Again, you can see clearly the big problem that could occur here and will probably occur. But this is not just a problem for illegal goods, it's also a problem for many businesses up and down the UK who are going to suffer even more because of this Brexit deal. So let's dive into the Financial Times to find out how businesses are even coping with this change that is set to take place in less than 13 hours' time. So, as always, before we do jump into this, please do remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. And also down below, there is a link to my Patreon page and an donation link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can buy me coffee. And as always, thank you very much to all those people who do support the channel that way, as well as the YouTube memberships down below as well. So, this comes from the Financial Times with the titles of Businesses Struggle to Prepare for the UK's Post-Brexit Import Controls. Maurice Gregg might have expected a very well-earned break over Christmas, having spent at least 2021 struggling with the post-Brexit bureaucracy now required to export his tailor-made gentleman's accessories to the EU. But instead, the 74-year-old owner of the Greggy and Greggy partnership gave up at the last part of the festive season in the order to pore over the UK's government technical guidance for the new border controls about to be introduced on imports from the EU. Starting in January, UK importers must now complete customs declarations in real time, pre-notify the authorities of incoming animal and plant products, and be able to produce proof that the goods are indeed being imported from the EU, qualify for the tariff-free access to the UK. This will do my head in, said Greggy, in the stockroom of his London boutique, which is filled with samples of expensive handmade leather gloves, belts, and fancy Italian umbrellas. But then I'm only a very small business. I don't have anyone else to help. Business groups have warned that these new import controls, which are about to be delayed by 1 year in order to keep trade flowing, will put considerable new pressure on small businesses in 2022 as they continue to adjust to the trading outside of the EU single market. Greggy and Greggy is one of these thousands of micro entrepreneurs that the Federation of Small Businesses Trade Group has warned that are insufficiently prepared for the new checks after a membership survey found that only a quarter of the businesses were actually ready. And a survey from the Institute of Directors, the bosses' organizations whose members generally represent the larger businesses, found that only 1/3 were actually not all prepared for all the changes. Business groups and officials now concede that it will be impossible to predict exactly how the changes will affect the flow of imports from the EU, which in 2020 accounted for at least 50% of all UK imports, worth about £300 billion. Senior government officials responsible for the border told MPs in November that businesses were being contacted about the changes, including on the other side of the channel, where the EU hauliers and exporters also needed to get prepared. The biggest sources, of course, for concern are about the possible disruptions, and this could come from the requirements for lorries entering the UK to obtain an authorization code from the UK's Goods Vehicles Move Service, or the GVMS, prior to boarding a ferry. To obtain the code, their paperwork must be in order. And from January the 1st, this will mean that customs declarations or duty payments can no longer be deferred by up to 175 days, and animal and plant products must be pre registered with the UK's import products for animals, food, and feed system. Jim Harris, the permanent secretary at the HMR Revenue and Customs, told MPs that a Public Accounts Committee that undoubtedly some EU lorry drivers would be turned away because of the new systems, but he was confident they would soon adapt. From July, food importers will also need to get their goods accompanied by health certificates signed off by EU vets and be ready to submit to spot checks if selected at the UK border control posts. Harrier said the government confidence was based on the fact that hauliers had adapted to a similar pre-destination declaration system back in 2021, when preparations were a reasonable worst-case scenario for tailbacks of at least over 7,000 trucks failed to materialise. Sean Bannerman, the chief executive of the Cold Chain Federation, said that the requirement to gather the customs and the IPF declarations, often in a very tight time frame, will likely leave many EU hauliers playing catch-up in the early months of 2022. HMRC said that it will be sending at least 14,000 letters a month to EU hauliers to prepare them for the changes. However, haulage groups in the EU told the Financial Times that they expect delays because they have been unable to prepare the tests at the GVMS system, and HMRC said that it was, quote, living live proofing the system with selected organisations. Arthur Kilstack from the TLP, which represents Poland's biggest transport companies, said that while it was flagging UK government webinars to its members, at least 90% of Poland's 36,000 haulage companies were small operators with at least 10 vehicles or less. We get information and reminders. We then pass this information on to our members, he said, so our companies are at least aware of this. How informed other companies are is a different question. Webinar, one of Eastern Europe's largest haulage groups, was more pessimistic, complaining that it had not even been possible to pre-test the GVMS system ahead of the January the 1st launch. We are certain there will be logger jams, but we don't know if the UK system can actually handle the claims flooding them, said the spokesperson. This will be a lot of clueless drivers backed up into transport points. As well as the new border control points, the UK companies trading with the EU will need to show proof that their goods are indeed eligible for the tariff-free importation into the UK. Under the rules of origin of the UK-EU trade agreement, the goods must typically be at least 50% made in the UK to qualify for export to the EU tariff-free, and vice versa for EU goods being exported to the UK. In 2021, exporters on both sides were given at least a 1-year grace period that reduced the requirement documentation. But from 2022, companies on both sides of the channel will need to provide that documentation and proof that their goods comply if challenged at custom authorities. In December, HMRC told the UK traders that if they fail to provide the similar declarations for goods, they risk paying penalties or being barred from using preferential tariff rates in the future. Trade groups have warned ministers that for small businesses, the rules of origin processes can be consuming and time consuming, with many just not fully appreciating all the requirements. Daniel Petty, the managing director of the Wiltshire-based Heaven Sent Incense, which makes scented soaps and candles and ingredients sourced from around the world, says that he was grappling with these new rules. We've started to ask suppliers for declarations, and we know that our products do qualify, he said, but admitted we do not sure whether information provided should be lodged when exporting to the EU. He added that despite the very plentiful emails from the government about the coming changes, online guidance was difficult to use. It's like falling down a rabbit hole. You click one link after another to go to some other website. You just get lost. Tanya Menot, the owner of The Solution, an independent shoe shop in Bristol, of import shoes from the EU, said that the company was trying to work out its legal position in the event of dispute over duty with EU suppliers. As a small business, we are trying to find our way. I've attempted to investigate via the HMRC website, but I do not consider myself new to all this, and it's not explained now in layman's terms, she added. Back in London, Greggy of the Gentleman's Accessories Importer is still trying to iron out all of this year's problems, which include duty payments being charged erroneously on shipments that originate in the UK and in the EU. It's going to be very complicated, he said. I'm importing his samples from the EU because I'm only a micro business and I don't yet know what the rules after the January 1st are, but no doubt it will not be straightforward. And of course, this is the timeline of what's going to happen this year. So the first part from January the 1st, we've got full customs declarations coming in. We've got food and plant pre-products pre-notification, and EU hauliers now have to be pre-authorized, and rules of origin requirements enter full force. That is from the 1st of January. That is a lot of paperwork. And I've already said, I've got a friend who, as soon as these checks came in, these added 2 more hours of work just for one order. That's 2 hours of extra work that the company now has to pay him, 2 hours more of his time that he has to spend on something that used to be he just didn't have to worry about. We move on to the 1st of July. That's when the physical checks and certification become introduced. On the 1st of September 2022, this is when dairy products will now need health certificates. And of course, the 1st of November, this is when composite products and fish products will require their own health export certificates to come into place. So there's a lot going on here. Will this be an easy and smooth transition? Absolutely not. We've said this before. The infrastructure is not in place. The systems to check all this are either not tested, untested or unproven, or using old systems which are so archaic people don't even know how to use them. We are still experiencing customs problems from the start of this year. So if exporters from the UK were having huge problems of exporting their goods, what happens now to all the small businesses and all them who now had to do this? And remember, some businesses this year have given up trading with the EU completely, which means, as we've said before, when we've done those small businesses who just give up, that's like 30 to 40% of their business. That's a lot of business to lose. So, this is what you get again going to be a disaster show happening, and this happens in less than 13 hours. So expect me to cover this when all this goes down, because I guarantee you it's going to go down hard. So, as always, thank you very much for watching. Please do remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, down below there are links to my Patreon page and an donation link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can, well, buy me coffee. And as always, thank you very much to all those people who do support the channel that way. And of course, we'll see you all next time.